it's Giada, and I'm here in Los Angeles in my home kitchen, and I'm super excited that you guys have joined me for this class today. So today we're gonna make charred Brussels sprout crostini, and I love these because they're easy and super impressive as appetizers. Or sometimes on a night where I don't want to cook very much and I want something a little lighter, I make them for me and Jade. They're really fun, so let's get started. But before we do, I need you to just have 3 things that you've already taken care of. So we need an oven that is at a broil, or 550 if you don't have broil, toasted pine nuts, and that you've already made your crostini. So once you have those 3 things, we're ready to begin. So what we're going to start by doing is plumping up some cranberries, which we're going to toss with the hot Brussels sprouts. So come on over to the stove and we'll get started. So we're going to start with some champagne vinegar. And I like the champagne vinegar because it's nice and bright. And it feels nice and elegant too, except that we want to pull this off. So it makes it easier. We're going to do a 1/4 cup of champagne vinegar. There we go. You could also use apple cider vinegar. That's really popular as well and has a nice clean sort of flavor profile, which you really want for this. And to the champagne vinegar, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of sugar. We're gonna actually dilute the sugar in the vinegar. So we're creating something known a little bit as a gastrique in a way, where we're cooking down vinegar and sugar together, and it gives you sort of that lovely sweet, but also sort of a little bit sour flavor, which is really good in here. Like an agrodolce almost. So it takes about 30 seconds or so to dilute the sugar into the vinegar. And then what we do is we add the cranberries into it. And we basically let them steep in it. So the sugar's dissolved, and you know it's dissolved when you can't see the sugar anymore. And we add 1/3 cup of the dried cranberries to that. Let it come up to a simmer, and then I let it simmer like a minute or 2, and then I turn off the heat and I let them sit and plump up, and they absorb all that flavor from the vinegar and the sugar. And you can rehydrate a lot of fruits like this. You could do figs like this, obviously cherries, dried strawberries. There's so many different fruits you could rehydrate. Apricots, you know, and it's a really great little trick to add more flavor quickly. Perfect. So now we're just gonna let the cranberries sit and just do their thing. In the meantime, let's start slicing up our Brussels sprouts. So we have a pound of Brussels sprouts right here. And what I do is I just cut the ends off of them. And then we're just gonna sort of slice them thinly. You wanna slice them thinly because we're gonna cook them under a broiler, and it's only gonna cook for like 6 minutes. So you want them to be pretty thin so they're nice and charred. That's the whole beauty of these crostini, is it goes so quickly, which is why sometimes when I'm feeling a little lazy, I like to make this for dinner because it's really satisfying, reminds me of fall, and it's super fast and super flavorful. And that's kind of the key to cooking, at least for me. That's what I like. So as you can see, you just kind of slice them super thin. I'm gonna finish slicing the rest of my Brussels sprouts, so hit pause and meet me back here when you're done. Okay, so now that we've got all our Brussels sprouts sliced, we need to season it before we throw it in the broiler. So we want to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil just to kind of give them a little bit of moisture. And, of course, salt. So sprinkle it with salt. Gotta season these Brussels sprouts. And then I like to add a little bit of red pepper. And you can add as much or as little as you like. Just a tiny bit is enough, just to give it a little extra oomph. And then I just toss it all together, and make sure you put it on a sheet pan like this, so that way it can really get nice and charred. There we go. And just kind of make sure that all the Brussels sprouts have a little bit of oil, a little bit of salt. There we go. Great. Okay. Now just spread it out. There we go. So we have like an even layer, just like that. Just clean off your hands, and let's pop them in the broiler. 6 minutes under the broiler. Here we go. All right, so while those are in the broiler, while the Brussels sprouts are in the broiler, let's get started on the ricotta. So I have 1¼ cups of ricotta cheese right here. So this is what we're gonna spread on the crostini, and that's what the Brussels sprouts are gonna stick to so that they don't go everywhere, right? Nice even, a nice layer of ricotta, and then the Brussels sprouts on top makes it really great when you bite into it. And I love ricotta, I love the texture, and I love how you can season it. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil, and then a little bit of salt, just to season the ricotta so every layer of this crostini has lots of flavor. And that's kind of the ticket, or the, that's kind of the way to make crostini, is to really make sure that each layer is seasoned. That's what makes them divine and a really special app. So now we just mix this all together. So if you can't find the ricotta cheese, which would be my first go-to, you could use mascarpone or you could use goat cheese. Those will work as well. And there we go. So now, ricotta is seasoned. We've got that ready. I've already got my toasted pine nuts ready to go, just to make sure that when we start layering, we have all of the ingredients we need. Ricotta is done. And we've got our crostini over here. Look at my beautiful little crostini. There we go. And I need a bowl. I've got my bowl ready so I can mix my Brussels sprouts with my cranberries, which are over here. So let's take the cranberries that we hydrated, and now they've cooled, and the liquid, because both of them have so much flavor. We're gonna pour that into this bowl. There we go. And now let's go get our Brussels sprouts. Ooh yeah, baby. Smells like charred Brussels sprouts. And as you can see, they got nice and charred. You wanna keep an eye on them. You don't wanna just put them in the oven and then walk away for 6 minutes. I would keep an eye on them just to make sure, but this is kind of what they look like. There we go. So, now that they're hot, we're gonna add them, just be careful, add them all into your bowl with the cranberries and the cranberry juice. There we go, there we go. So they're charred, but they're still slightly, like they're not mushy. They've got a nice texture to them, which is really important. There we go, just add them all in here. But the charring gives them a little bit, like a nice depth of flavor, which I just love. This could also be sort of a side dish during the fall. Really, anytime. I love crostini because you can top them with anything. I think that's why I love them so much. So easy. Okay, so now we've got them all together. So now toss this all so that they absorb all of the liquid of the cranberries, because they add so much flavor. That sort of sweet and sour flavor that I just love. And in Italy, we call that agrodolce. Nice steam coming off of them too. There we go. I wish you guys could smell it, because I can smell the vinegar. There we go. Okay, so now, let's see if we can just taste a little piece. Perfect. Okay, so that's done. Now, we take one of the crostini, see, just like this, and then pick whatever platter plate you want to serve it on. You take a little bit of the ricotta that you seasoned with olive oil and salt. There we go. Smear it right on there, just like that. Then I take a little bit of the Brussels sprout mixture, and I put it right on top. Just slide it right on top like that. And then the finale are the pine nuts. Toasted pine nuts to give it nice depth, and again, give it a nice crunch. You need a little crunch and stuff like this. And there is my very first charred Brussels sprout crostini. Take another one. You smear a little bit of cheese. These are great too because you can make them in advance if you want. There we go. And we put a little bit of the Brussels sprouts right on top. There we go. And maybe a little bit too much. There we go. Oh, you want to fall off too. There we go. And then a couple of pine nuts. There we go. All right. Let's make another one and then let's taste it. Let's see here. But it's pretty easy, isn't it? It's pretty simple. There we go. So let's just see. Slide it right on in there. Little guy wants to get away. Oop, get over there. And the pine nuts right on top. And then let's give it a shot. Make you do a little dance. What I love about these, so much flavor. Perfect little fall bite, all in one. Really great bite for any time. Thanks for joining me today, you guys. Hopefully you will love these charred Brussels sprout crostini as much as I do. Buon appetito!